from the top. All right, so the very first thing you do is, let me get the order off my screen, is enter a reference, because all the data is in the database comes from a reference. We keep it associated with the original reference, and that's really helpful down the road when you want to use the data, when you want to give credit to the people who generated the data. So it is, in fact, the very first thing on the main menu. So I will click on that. And what we want to do is check to see whether the reference is in the database or not. So I usually just use author and year. So this is Shimada, it's brand new, 2020.
Goodbye.
What about audio?
No, we don't want audio. Please turn off your microphones. Can you hear me? If you can hear me, that's what we need.
Audio connection, speaker, microphone.
Okay, whoever is talking, please mute your microphone.
What audio connection?
So that paper was not in the database, and so it brings up a screen here to enter the data for this reference. So I'm going to enter, you only enter initials here. The other author is Everhart. It is a journal article. It already pre-filled this because remember I searched under that year. So I'm going to grab the title, put it here. When you do cut and paste like that from a PDF, do look at it and make sure you didn't get weird characters. You often get weird returns in there, so go in and fix it. It's from the Journal of Vertebrate Paleontology. There is a pull down here with a bunch of journals, but I can never remember what's there, so I just put it there myself. So this is JVP 39. Oh, it's 2019. I'm so sorry. I was put in 2020. I'm a bad person. I'll put 2019 up here. Good thing I checked. It's volume 39, and JVP has gone to these weird page numbers. So just put that down here. And the DOI is universal ID, so put it here. Now, there's different reference types, and you'll want to pick them, and some of these are applicable to some and not others. And so you can see there's different reference types here. Pick whatever is most appropriate and do your best to put the right data in the right field. If there's something about this reference or about your data entry from this reference you want to comment on, you put it there. Almost every one of our data entry screens has a comment box just for things we couldn't think ahead of time where to put. So if you think it's relevant, put it there, but don't editorialize. Just put relevant information there. Now, this one's pretty straightforward. I think I'm done. Take a quick peek. I got authors, I got a title, I got a journal, and I'm going to submit. Oops, I'm getting error messages. Sorry, they're hidden back here. The second author's initials must end with a period. Wait. It's a space. So I made a mistake. So it gives you little alerts. And I hit submit. Okay, so now here you have one more chance to preview. Now watch what's going to happen when I go back to the main menu. Watch right here. Now that becomes the active reference. Okay, so this now any data entered is going to be from this reference. And I see in the chat someone's asked, you get here? You get there from the main menu where it says add a new reference. Okay. So now,
Mark, people say that with their guest account they cannot see this add new reference button.
And they are correct, because you cannot enter data if you are a guest. You will only be able to download data. Having a guest account is the first step in getting a full account, and I will come back to that at the end. Okay, so only people who have full accounts of some sort can enter data, and we're currently having a little technical issue with the accounts on the training site, but I will hopefully have that resolved soon, and you'll be able to log in there and practice entering data. But right now, it's not available. I'm sorry. So for now, just hold on to that guest account, and you see a very reduced main menu, which only lets you retrieve data. So let me come back to that at the end. For now, let's keep going here, and then I'll get you set up with those other accounts. Okay. Thank you for bringing that up. I forgot to mention we were having a technical problem. Okay, so as I was saying, I've now got my reference done, check. Now I can enter all the other kinds of data, and it will all be linked directly to this reference. I don't have to think about that again. But if you're entering multiple papers, please make sure that you keep updating. You always reference, then data, because if you're entering a bunch of stuff and switching back and forth, it can get confusing, and we want to make sure that the data is properly associated with the reference. So what I always do is I do it in this order. I do reference, then I do taxonomy. And there's a good reason why, and I'll show you that when we get to that point. So I'm going to look at my paper. I'm like, a new large Cretaceous lamniform shark from North America. So that implies there's a new something, probably species, with comments on the taxonomy, paleoecology, and evolution of the genus Crototus. Okay? So like most good paleo papers, there's probably going to be a systematic paleo section. Ha, here it is. Ta-da. So it's all laid out for me very clearly here. And there's a new species in an old genus, because that's from Solikov 1965, which is in a bunch of older, higher taxa. So I'm going to enter this new species here right now. So I'm going to say add edit taxonomic name. That's what I need to do, add the taxonomic name. I try to cut and paste these as much as possible, just because I'm not a good speller and I don't want to mess this up. And some of these are a little tricky. So it's Crototus. And here's the specific epithet. Boom. So now the PBDB knows that it's not there. And so it's got this blank form. Let me show you what happens if you put one that's already in there. Let's try this one. That one wasn't in there. People have not entered sharks. We need shark people. Anyone a shark person want to enter sharks? So all these aren't in there, so that's all right. Well, if it was already in the database, you'd see it all filled in already, but it's not. So we're going to fill that in. One more time, back here. Okay, so the first this species was first named in the data record's primary reference, and look, there's my reference, Shimada and Everhart, 2019. Good. What page is it on? It is on page. Sometimes it's at the top, sometimes at the bottom. This is on page 4. It's in these figures. Oops. These newfangled things are too clever for their own good. It was a link. I just wanted to copy the text. Somebody's got their microphone on. Please mute. All right. The type specimen, which is just, again, a well laid out systematic paleo section. It's all going to be right here in front of you. Whoever has their microphone on, please mute. Is this a form taxon? Nope. It's an actual body fossil. Is it living? Nope. What do we got here? The holotype consists of largely disarticulated partial skeleton, consisting of teeth, vertebrae, placoids. Okay. Partial skeleton. And you can even copy and paste this. Somebody has their microphone active, please mute. I'm getting feedback in my earphones. We can say copy and paste it and put it in here so that anyone else coming across this will see this data displayed. You can see the nature of the type specimen, which is super duper helpful. Now, let's look at some stuff I didn't fill in. Hold on one sec here. All right. So I did not check this is the type species because it's not the type species of Crototus, which is Crototus crassidens. Okay, if it was, you could check that box. If there was some basic measurements you want to put in, you could do that. And this thing says type locality, PBDB number. We don't fill that in. It'll automatically get filled in when I enter the locality information, okay? And I'll show you how that works. If it has a common name, like if it's a modern taxon, that's usually more applicable. Even some fossil taxa have common names. Generally, I just don't fill that in. So we never fill this in, don't fill that in, and I think everything else is filled in. Now you can see here that sometimes you have a name that is new to the database, but not named in this paper. If that's true, you can do this and enter some sketchy info about the reference. You could say, let's say it was named in Smith 2000. I would go hit this button, hit Smith 2000, and that's it. You don't have to put any more in. You could put page numbers and figures in too. It's always best to enter new taxa from the actual paper that named them, but sometimes you don't have access to that, or you're entering a paper with names that aren't in the database and you want to add them. You can say it was named in an earlier publication and put that in here. We can always update it later to the correct reference. Okay, so I'm just going to pause there and say, are there questions? About what I just did while I have the screen up. Just type them in the chat if you have a question. I'm not seeing any, so this must be crystal clear. Is there any particular way to format the figures field? No, it's a free-form text field. So whatever you got, put it in there. You can put figures, tables, plates. It's just sort of a helpful, because this is sort of what we do in our systematic paleo section. We're trying to sort of replicate that over here. So it's kind of good to know whether it was figured or not. A lot of older stuff, there aren't figures, and sometimes there are. Is it possible to gray out fields? Users should not enter data in. Yeah, well, lots of things are possible. Lindsay is asking whether it's possible to sort of change the look of this. The answer is yes. So I'll give you a little inside baseball about PBDB, which is right now we have 0 funding. So no, we can't because we don't have a programmer, which is why we're having a technical difficulty that's proving to be a little hard to fix. We have a grant, cross your fingers, is getting funded. And if it gets funded, we plan on redoing all of these forms, okay? So that's the way we're redoing the database makes it super duper flexible. And we'll be able to do clever things like that. These forms are almost 20 years old and they look 20 years old. I'll be the first to admit that. So I'm teaching you guys how to use the system we have. Hopefully we'll make it easier to use with clever things like that in the future. So again, excellent suggestion. I would love to. I'm not a programmer. So other questions? In discussion, can you comment about the occurrence? Yeah, I forgot to mention these 2 big fields down here because I never touched them. Technical comments is where you would put, sometimes it's just, again, that's the comment field. We didn't think there's no field for something that you think is relevant. Put it here. This discussion field is not used and should not be used by anybody. It's sort of like a wiki thing that we're gonna disable because no one uses it. But the technical comments field is where you would put technical comments about the taxon, but not the occurrences, because those are different. Remember, this is a record for the taxon, not this occurrence of the taxon. Okay, so we'll get to the occurrence and there'll be lots of places to comment. Okay, does everyone understand what I mean there when I say this is the taxon and not the occurrence of the taxon? Is that clear? If the type specimen is lost or missing, can you note that? Yes, and you should. Like if you know the number, but you know it's destroyed or something, yeah, that's exactly what the technical comments field is for, is cool stuff like that. Very relevant stuff like that. For example, could you enter in technical comments the LSID? Yes. So that is one of the features we're hoping to add is other UUIDs for taxa, which the LSID is one. So we're hoping to add that feature to the database. For now, putting it in the comments is a good idea. We'll be able to harvest them back out if we get a special field for other UUIDs. Thank you. Good thought. Okay, so I have not yet actually added this to the system. Here we go. I forgot to enter the author. What does it say? I got an alert. Author name. Oh, because I pushed the button. Oops, that was bad. There we go. Now it says Critotis hotenorum has been entered into the database. Now I can do all kinds of other stuff for it. And one of the things you can and should do every time is it says is enter an opinion about the taxon. So I'm going to say edit an opinion about this taxon because when you enter a new species, the opinion of these authors is implicit in the naming of a new species. Their opinion about it is that it belongs to Critotis, right? So it auto-fills that for you. But you could enter opinions without entering a new taxon, and we really want you to do that. So every opinion everyone ever has about a taxon should be entered. So let's take a look at this. Again, this one was auto-filled for us with the pages and the figures. You can say here how strongly this opinion should be regarded. This is the highest, this is the lowest. You can read here what these different levels of opinion mean. Different people have different thoughts on that. Generally, a new taxon, we assume they knew what they were talking about and say it's with evidence. You can, and this is another thing, like here, the reason to look at this is I can now enter a diagnosis. Did they give one? Oh, you bet. Here it is. I'm going to grab it, copy, and paste it right in there. That's super helpful. Like for your own taxa, if you're entering a bunch of stuff, I don't always have to go back to the original papers to read the diagnosis. I've entered them all in the PBDB for, so if you want to know what whales are all about, there you go. There's Evans pasting in there what all that means. Thank you. What the different opinions mean. Again, we got comments for everything we couldn't think of. And this part down here can get a little tricky, and I'll try to perhaps come back to this later. If you're recombining things, moving a species to a new genus or something, sometimes the spellings change. Sometimes, we're taking one specific epithet and applying it to a different genus. You might have to pick one of these. Like if it was a recombination, you would pick that. If it had been misspelled, or this is a misspelling, we actually want you to enter the misspelled taxa and then say, this is a misspelling, so that we don't ignore the misspellings, we identify them. And that's really helpful in the future. So it may seem weird to ask you to put things in as they were spelled in the paper, even if it's a misspelling, but we want you to do that so that people can see that here's the real taxon name, here's the misspelling, and you, the eagle-eyed enterer, identify it as such. But since I don't want to touch this, everything's fine, I will now submit this. And now that opinion's been updated with the diagnosis, which is super helpful. So again, I can try to go back to opinions and show you how to do some other stuff in the future. What if there are different spellings in a single reference? Oh boy, yeah. PBDB will only let you enter one opinion about a given taxon for a reference. So what I would do is enter, if one's correct and one's incorrect, I'd enter the correct one and then make a note in the comments that there was this other thing there. Okay, so again, that's what the comment field is, a catch-all for great stuff like that. I think in the future, we might actually let you put in multiple opinions from a single reference because this happens more often than it should. And we want to represent that in the right way versus comments, which are better than nothing, but not the best way to do it. So any other questions about opinions? We'll come back to that because it can get a little complicated. Okay, so again, keep comments coming. I'm going to go back to the main menu. So now we've entered the name, we entered the reference, we entered the name, we entered the opinion, and we're literally just going down this list. And so this is the preferred list and the preferred order in which we want you to enter things. So now we need to enter where this fossil came from, and that means to enter a new collection. Okay, so this place, this geologic unit place combination might be in the database already. And you might want to add it to an old collection, but we have to check to see first. So let's look at what they say. It says, a clayey shale bed within the lower half of the Blue Shale member of the Carlisle Shale near the town of Tipton, Mitchell County, Kansas. Now, to me, the best way to do this if you're writing a paper is to put some coordinates in there. But lots of people don't like that and don't do it. And so we have to deal with that. And you're like, where the heck is Tipton, Mitchell County, Kansas? I don't know, but I'll tell you who does. So I'm going to open up a new window here and go to, if you've never heard of this, my favorite geolocation site is called Geolocate. And it was actually created by natural history types for natural history types. And this is really great at finding places on the planet when you just have a verbal description. So you go to Geolocate, click on Web Clients, Standard Client. So now this place is called Tipton, USA, Kansas. Let's see what we got. There it is. Okay, so there's Tipton. Here are the coordinates down here. So I'm going to grab just the decimal fraction of the coordinates. Go back here. Now I'm going to say, oh, what age was this? Okay, so they say a horizon, but they don't say the age. I'm like, what? What's the age? Now I've previewed this paper, so I know where the age is. Oh, look, a strat column from the, pardon me, Blue Hill Shale, which is Turonian, which is Cretaceous. So let's go back here. Pick from the pick list. There's Cretaceous, 39 degrees, decimal fraction. Grabbing the decimal fraction of this one. 98 degrees. Oops. And it's north and west. I have my default coordinates to go to the US, just because that's where a lot of the collections I enter are from. Whoops, 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 whoops. Don't touch the map. You get craziness like this. All right, so there's some stuff here at 0 kilometers from my coordinates. So I'm like, Blue Hill member, Carlisle Shale, but that's a USGS locality number. My folks didn't mention a USGS locality number, so I don't think I want to put it there. Even if it's exactly in the same spot, unless you're 100% sure it came from the same hole in the ground, I make a new collection. So there's 2 right on top of my coordinates, but I'm not convinced those are my hole in the ground. So I'm going to make a new one, add a new collection. Okay, now this, I'm going to, full confession time, this collection thing is overwhelming when you first look at it. Because look, there's 7 tabs with God's quantity of fields to fill in. This is going to be the first target of our simplification effort when we get some programming skills here, okay? So now, when you become a full member of the database, you can get assigned to a research group. So you can put, but you don't have to be part of a research group to identify a research group for a collection. So this is a vertebrate fossil. So my default is vertebrate. You can pull down, if there's other stuff, you can do that too. I'm not going to do that here. So just everything that's in red is required. And as you'll see, there's a lot of fields. Very few of them are actually required. I have my defaults here set at the access level to public and immediate. I feel quite strongly that this data is not proprietary. It's coming from a published paper. And so everyone should have access to it. That's my personal feeling. If you're doing a research project and collecting new data that hasn't quite been published yet, and you want to restrict it for a while until you publish it, please do. And you can actually say, just me, and you can restrict it for up to 5 years while you work on it. Okay, so you can do that if it's not published and you want to hold on it for a while. We encourage you to use this system while you're collecting data, and you can, like I say, hold it on for yourself. But since this is public data, I'm going to make it public. So I need a collection name. This is just a name that, let's see. So I tend to use geographic names, so I'm going to say oops, that's not what I want. On near. There you go. Why'd they do it? Taxonomic. There's renaming a new species. So now I'm just going to go down these tabs one at a time. Nick says, once you've restricted it, can you release it earlier? Absolutely, you can. Yep. If you restrict something for X amount of time, you're able to go back later and make it public. Yep. Absolutely. Yep. And I highly encourage it. Like when you publish, you had better make that stuff public. Okay, so going down the list here, geography. So we know it's from the US of A, it's from Kansas, and there was a county, what was it? Mitchell. Okay. We also hope to improve our geolocation because if we know the coordinates, we should know all this. So we'll be able to autofill that. My coordinates came through. It's always good to take a look at this map and make sure that it's in the right place. If you get one of these wrong, you can end up in the wrong quadrant of the globe. It's easier to do than you think. So please look at the map and make sure you're in the right country. Now, if you're the database does have a little error checking. So if you really are in the wrong quadrant of the planet and say it's in the US and it's really over in Kazakhstan, it'll let you know. What's the basis of the coordinate? Okay, let's see. Based on a political unit. Remember, use the town of Tipton. Geographic resolution. I'm going to call it outcrop. Again, there are tip sheets all over the place. It's a see the tip sheet. These tip sheets will remind you of all the stuff I'm telling you right now. So you're like, what was I supposed to put there? Look in the tip sheet. The tip sheet. See, there's tip sheets all over. They're so easy to overlook. Don't forget them. They're really quite rich. And so down here under location details, it's sort of like a comments box for location. What I do is I always just copy and paste. So near the town of Tipton. Got it. Oops, there we go. Now, you might be tempted to push this button. Let's see what happens. Oh my God, I got lots of stuff that I didn't fill in. Because remember, I got all these left to do. Okay, so there's only one red field here, so we need to fill in some time. I always recommend putting in the finest time interval you possibly can, because why not? So let's back up here to our strat column. Blue Hill Shale is Turonian. So I'm going to put that in. Now watch what happens. I'm going to type slowly, Turon. Oh, it autofilled. So we have a lot of time scale information already pre-programmed in here, and it should autofill for you on time periods. So let's say I tried to put something in that was, completely bogus, like the snuffleupagus. I don't even know how to spell that. Snuffleupagus isn't an official time term. No kidding. Let's put it back. Turonian. Okay, better. You always clear these by hitting a little X. And so there's some stratigraphic info here. So it's from the Blue Hill Shale. It's got a group. Let's see here. Oh, that's the member. I did that wrong. Oops. Here. from the Carlisle Shale. And it's from the Colorado group. Excellent. You could put more stuff in here about the stratigraphy. Let's go back to where we were here. It's from the lower half of the Blue Hill Shale. So let's just grab that. So again, people don't have to go back to the paper. They can see it all here. And you can choose this. It's from a bed within there. So I'm going to say bed because it says bed within the lower half of the member. So bed is the stratigraphic revolution. Now, sometimes you have time that spans a couple stages or a couple of periods. So you could put, Turonian to whatever. If you only have one, you just fill it in the max. But if you have a span, you can put max min. If you have direct dates like, ash beds or strontium dates, you can put them here, and then you can then choose what kind of date it is. And you can put max and min. If you only have one, you can put it over here. So if you have one date, put it here. If you have a couple of dates that bracket, you put in the max and min, just like you do up here. Okay, any questions so far? We're about halfway through the collections data entry slog. Any questions? What about regional names for time bins? Well, we have a lot of them in here. Like I know the New Zealand one's in, Parrots heavy in stuff from Eastern Europe. There's a lot in here already. If they're not there, then you're going to have to translate to the sort of global standard, and then I would put that down here. I would put every comment down here. But there's a lot. There's a lot in there. So hopefully we have what you need, but if not, put it in the comments. Other questions so far? Geography, basic info, or stratigraphy? Okay, great. Is there a place to put a local name for a site, Bob's Bone Bed? Well, you have to name it. So you could call it Bob's Bone Bed, right? I mean, whatever name it has, but notice we also have name and AKAs. So sometimes a lot of places have names and numbers. Some places that there's like a UCMP number and a USGS number. You can just string them along. Just pick a name and then put other stuff here. So what I tend to do is I put like a verbal or a descriptive name up here, either a geographic name or Bob's Bone Bed, and then the locality numbers down here separated by commas. They all get searched on if you search for a place, if you search for that name or number. Yep. Good question. Others? You can get really fancy here if there are sections with numbers that are very specific to your site. You can put that in here. So local section name, seasonal or regional sectional name, how those are distinguished. You are the best judge of that. So if there's like local numbered beds, you can put those in there. That's really cool. But again, you're not obliged to even put in a formation name because sometimes different parts of the world don't use them. Sometimes they don't exist. And that's why we're not going to force you to do that. Okay, moving right along, the geology. So here we force you to pick a primary lithology. So let's see what they say. A clayey shale bed. All right. So let's look here. Oh, shale. There you go. Were fossils collected from that lithology? Yes. Now you're like, well, what are all these things? Well, these are modifiers to the word shale. So let's look here. There's argillaceous, which means clayey, so I'll pick that. If there's multiple lithologies, you can add up to 2. So there's these short lists of the really common modifiers here. Then there's really long lists of sedimentary structures, of accessory minerals, of different kinds of rocks. These are all mostly adjectives. So what I do is I put the primary lithology here. If it's a common modifier, I look here. If it's an uncommon modifier, I look here. And then, like always, I always copy and paste the literal description right there. Now, again, most people mention something about lithology, but if they don't, you can pick not reported. right? So we force you to enter something here, but we force you to say it wasn't reported if it wasn't reported. And then we also force you to pick an environment. Okay, so I'm not reading a lot about environment. If I was really doing a thorough job, what I would do is I'd read everywhere else. I'd read the introduction, I'd read the conclusions and discussion. And if they talk about the environment, I'll pick one. But since I don't want to bore you to tears, which I probably am already, I'm just going to do this, pick marine. Okay, so we force you to pick one, but literally you could say marine or terrestrial. Like 99.9% of the time should be able to tell just from the animal or plant or whatever you're entering, whether it's marine or terrestrial. And again, comments, you can comment. You can pick a tectonic setting if you want. If it's something to do with glaciers, you can put it there. This, again, there's a lot of blanks here, but notice I left a lot of them blank. Let's keep on going. You must pick a mode of preservation. So I know, here it is, there's bones, there's teeth. So we got a body fossil, but we got lots of other ones here. You could read about preservation. Again, a lot of times this isn't reported, but if it's there, please add it. If it was put there by humans, for gosh sake, please check this button. There's a lot of whales in caves. I do whales, so whales don't live in caves, but they get there by humans moving their bones. So lots of stuff here you can put in about the taphonomy. So again, please check that out and put this in. I'm going to skip all that for now. Moving right along. We force you to pick a size class. And so as a person who studies whales, I 99.9% of the time just click that, which is greater than a centimeter. And these categories are huge, right? Smaller than a millimeter, between a millimeter and a centimeter, and greater than a centimeter. So you should be able to pick one of those. This had associated body parts. So I'm going to pick many. Again, you can look these over and decide whether you want to put stuff in here. If it's associated with humans, you can add some stuff. Again, comments for all the things we couldn't think of. And the very last page, this is an odd one. What is not included in the list but is reported to be present. So if they say, hey, there's ichnofossils, but they don't talk about them, you can check that. Where did the author get the fossils? That's usually up in the intro, like where we got this fossil. March. Okay, it's collected. You could talk about how it was collected if that information is there. The museum repository is. I'm sorry, I don't all that acronym. Fort Hayes. This may or may not be on the list. It is not. So you could put it here. Okay, so that was the last tab. So before I push the button and see what happens, do we have any questions about entering a collection? Again, this is the slog part where you have to really read the paper carefully. You might have to bounce around the paper like I did, looking for different stuff. You know, sometimes it's nigh on impossible to find where this place is on the planet, but it's essential. So you got to do that. What if the collector is unknown? Yeah, just don't put it in. It's not required. Yeah, I rarely actually, yeah. Could you perhaps tell that other authorizers could edit the data you just entered? Yeah, so actually that you can't. So when you become an authorizer, which is sort of our highest level of user, as part of your user profile, you can designate other people to edit your data. And we really encourage you to do that. You know, other people part of your research group, other people who might be interested in that, so that if you do make a mistake, those people catch it, they can fix it for you. We are hoping to switch over to a system where anybody can edit anything, but again, we're waiting for funding. What if the formation age is outdated in the publication? Okay, that's a really good question. I will finish this and I'll come back and show you what to do. Really, really good question. So I'm going to enter it. Okay, so this is a bug because all that was actually entered. If I hit it again, it'll go away. Sorry. That normally doesn't happen. It's because I hit enter several times. Okay, so now here's my collection. Now, again, you can do a little error checking. You can take a look at it and you sort of like, here's a little summary of everything I entered. You know, it's a good idea to sort of look at what you just did and make sure it's not all crazy. So if if something about this is an older paper and the formation age is one that changes a lot, right? The ages get updated and changed and what have you. What I would do is enter this paper as is, and then get another paper. Like if you have another paper that has the updated age, what you could do is then you'd go in here and you'd add that reference. You add, you know, whatever, add it in there, and you can go back and edit the old collection. Edit. And it's called Tipton. So there's a bunch that say Tipton, but here's my new one. They're in order of collection number, which is just a sequential number. And so the newest stuff should be down here. And then what you can do is you can be like, oh, you know what? It's not really Turonian anymore. So you go down here and be like, originally Turonian. And then you could put the new age, Cenomi. There we go. And you could even say, you know, but new reference, blah, 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 blah says it's Cenomanian. Okay. So I'm going to put it back the way it was because it is actually Turonian. But again, that's where your collections field is your friend. I'm not even going to edit it. For non-English references, do we need to fully translate if taxa names include accents, umlauts, whatever? So taxa names cannot include umlauts and stuff. And if they do, you have to drop them. Every other bit of text, you can use all the fancy characters, and please do. Need to translate. I mean, do it. Wait a minute, there's Lori in my office right now. Somebody turn off your microphone and video, please. Please turn off your microphone and video. You should enter everything in English. Yes, you should enter as much as you can in English. You know, some of the stuff is just going to be in a language like place names, people's names. Yeah, so we let you put in funky characters, but again, taxon names, they are not allowed. The database is very, very strict about how you enter taxon names. No spaces, no umlauts, no capitals, specific epithets. I think the ICZN asked for taxonomies to have no accents anymore, i.e. they were removed. Yes, that is correct. So they should be stripped out according to the rules. If I had my way, we'd let you put them in and then strip them out and have other people strip them out in their opinions. But that was set up a long time ago to not allow funky characters. And it really helps with prevent data entry errors. Yep. Okay, so we're back to the main menu. We've entered a reference, we've entered a name, we've entered an opinion, we've entered a collection. Anyone, what haven't we done? Really important, like fully essential thing we haven't done yet, that if you don't do this, you might as well not have done any of it. Anyone, like, what haven't I done yet? That's super important. Anybody? We haven't done the next thing on the list, right? We have not done the occurrences. Thank you, yes. So what was our collection? It was Tipton. Yep. So right now I've entered the whole collection and there are no fossils there. So we need to put our fossil at this collection. I already forgot its name. Now watch what I'm going to do. Because it is a new species. And we also ask you to put in the abundance and units. Let me double check here. There appears to be a single specimen, the holotype. There are no referred specimens, so I'm going to say one specimen. Again, we got comments. You can go nuts there. You might, if since it's a new species, you could do this. I do this a lot. There's one of them, and there's the specimen number. So save changes. Okay, so the reason we had you do the taxonomy first is that now this thing is correctly classified. I can see that it's correctly classified. And I'm going to go back and actually do a little more taxonomy when we're all done here. But what I want to show you now is this. Let's go back and look at the taxon name. Remember how I said that this don't touch this field? Look, it automatically filled in because I identified it as NSPA, new species. And when you do that, the database is smart enough to see that and be like, oh, well, then I'll fill in the collection number in this species. So you don't have to fill it in yourself. You can let the database do it for you as long as you remember to put NSPA in the occurrences list. Okay. So let's go back to the main menu. I've done all this stuff. I never paste in an occurrence list because they're never formatted quite right. And so I usually just do it one at a time. You can try it if you want. I don't ever do that. So one thing we did not do, so I put in this new species, but there's a whole lot of taxonomy here that I could enter. You write Uhen, yes, thank you. You write Uhen when it's a new genus, but those are the only two levels you do that for. You don't put in family. If it's a new genus and species, should the genus species be separated? Yes, so watch this. Should the genus and species be entered separately for the occurrences? No. You enter the genus and species separately when you enter the taxa, because you have to have a genus to put a species in it. But let's go here. Yes, that's what Evan just said. It would be Uhen genus. So I'll show you. Oops. Edit all occurrences. If this was a new genus, it would look like this. Uhen genus, NSPA species. But you don't put them separate because that means something different. You could have this on your list. Watch this. If you have something identified at your collection only to genus, you do this. You go Critotus. And those are two different things, right? Critotus hutanorum is one thing. Critotus spa is quite another. So even though the genus Critotus shows up at Tipton with the species, there are other specimens identified as Critotus spa, not two species. And so you want to put all that in there, if that's what it said, which it did not. So we'll just put it back the way it was. Okay, is that clear? Anyone have other questions about occurrences? Because let's see. Yeah, so Evan just put in all the different modifiers. You can put F, CF, quotes, question marks, and please don't ignore that stuff. It's super duper important. Anything genus and below can be N, except subspecies for some bizarre reason. We're going to add that in, but they're not there now. Okay. All right. So let me just show you, if I was doing this myself, I would add all this taxonomy. So I'd say what the genus Critotus is in. So I'll show you what that looks like. So this paper opines that Critotus, and look, there's a bunch of different opinions about Critotus. And notice that the one that the database is currently using is the one that's bold. So my opinion from this paper is not there yet. So I'm going to put it in, and they say something different. So Critotus is in the family on page, 4. I'll say with evidence, belongs to Pseudoscapanorincidae. That's a mouthful. And they do they? They do give a diagnosis. Not of Crototus diagnosis, they do. They have an emended diagnosis for Crototus, so I'm going to grab it. Paste it in. There you go. Check for weirdness. There's a bit of weirdness. Okay, submit. Oh, look at that. So if you're entering stuff and you see one of these yellow boxes with red text, you should stop what you're doing, read it carefully. Okay, so since it happened, I'm kind of glad it happened, I can show you. Let's read together. The taxon Pseudoscapanarhynchidae is not in our database. Please create a new authority for Pseudoscapanarhynchidae before entering its opinion. It's saying I can't put the genus in the family because the family doesn't exist. Now, a lot of times when you see this, it's because you made a typo, right? Which is why I like to cut and paste. The reason I can't cut and paste this is because it's all caps, but here it is. That's not it. Nope. So anyway, let's check my spelling. I think I got it right. Pseudoscapanarhynchidae. Okay, so it looks like it's spelled right. So I can just click on this and it's like, all right, it wants you to do it. So let's look here. It was named by Herman. I'm very glad this is happening because did Shimada and Everhart name this? Oh no, it was named in an earlier publication, and that is Herman, 1979. And it wasn't on page 4 because I don't know what page it is. It was just in Herman 79. It's a family, yep, because it says family, not a form taxon, it's not a living taxon. Actually, it might be. I don't know. I'm going to guess no. It's a body fossil, I guess. I don't know. Let's leave it there. So I hit submit. So now the name is in there, but the database knows nothing about it except that it was named by Herman in 1979. So you absolutely have to do this. You must add an opinion because there are none, right? And it's in the lamniformes. So I'll say it goes in lamniformes. And this is now Shimada and Everhart's opinion on page 4 with evidence. They do have a diagnosis of Pseudoscapanarhynchidae, which is emended. So we'll put that in there. So these guys on page 4 say Pseudoscapanarhynchidae belongs to lamniformes and have this emended diagnosis. Great. Submit. See what happens. Lamniformes exist multiple times in a database. Please select the one you want. Aha! This will happen a lot. So they're putting it as order lamniformes. What do I got? Lamniformes order. Oh, it's also a suborder, but they said order. So I have to pick order, hit submit, and voila. So there's still one thing I haven't done. I still haven't put Crototus into this family because it didn't exist. Now it does. So Crototus, see, not there. Put it in and go. There we go. Voila. Did everyone follow that? I know that I went a little fast there. I'm sorry, but I want to just check and see if you have questions about what I just did. So I've entered all these opinions up to this point. And I could keep going. I'm not going to because I'll think I'll bore you to tears. Wow, I must be doing a good job or people are logging off because they're bored. So let's go back to main menu. We've done everything under basic steps. We've entered the paper, we've entered the taxon, we've entered taxonomy, we've entered the collection, we've entered the occurrences. Now, there could be more in this paper. People tend to hide taxonomic information down here, in their discussion, in their conclusions. Are the newest opinions always followed? Ooh, you know what? Let's check and see what's going on here. We can search for our taxons opinions and check. So there's only one, so let's check Critotus. Aha. Yep. Yeah, usually what Evan just said is it depends on the quality. It'll take the most recent stated with evidence. If there are none stated with evidence, it'll take the most recent stated without evidence. And so in this case, this one is with evidence and it's the newest, so it took over from this opinion. And all these that you see that say Sepkoski and are kind of grayed out, those are all from the Sepkoski compendium. We uploaded all that many, many years ago just to get something about a bunch of marine taxa. So sometimes if you see that's the only opinion and you're adding another opinion, you're doing a very good thing because Sepkoski is a very derivative source. And in this case, we're getting it straight from the people who describe the taxon. So who better to have an opinion about it? Does that mean that if someone uploads an opinion stated with evidence that moves a taxon, the PBDB will move to using that immediately? Yeah, it just did. 100%. I just moved Critotus into the family Pseudosuphanarhynchidae. Yep. So the whole taxonomy system of PBDB is dynamic and changes every single day. Some people this drives crazy. Other people, like me, think it's really nifty. But if you see something weird, you have to sort of dive back in and see, like, did somebody enter something wrong? Did somebody enter a really bad opinion and give it a high ranking? You know, it's very dynamic. So yeah. Okay, so we've entered a whole paper. We've entered all its taxonomy and its collection, and I'm going to just open this up for questions and say, what do you want me to go over again? What can we do for you to make this clearer? I know we went over a lot. We really did. So I don't want to that was probably a rush. Just show them the landing page of a taxon and a collection that you just entered. Sure, you bet. So we went through these steps. Here's some more for, you can see what's going on here. You can switch to a different reference if you want. You can edit this one if it's got a mistake. You can edit a different reference if you want. This is basically for editing old stuff, editing collections and occurrences. Let me show you this. So I'll search for the taxon, which I already forgot its name. Sorry, I'm old. Here it is. You can just search for taxon. I will come back to the questions popping up in just a sec. And in fact, here you go. Can you add images? The answer is no. And here's why. Because images, data is not copyrightable, but images are. They are immediately copyrighted the moment someone snaps a photo. And so we don't want to have to deal with copyright clearance. So we've done something else, which is we have paired with the iDigBio folks. If you don't know about it, iDigBio collects museum records, including images. And so you can pull up images of stuff that's in iDigBio using the system called ePanda. In fact, you should go to the ePanda website, epanda2ds.org, and you can mash up iDigBio records with ours. But here you can do this. We're going to pull up any images from iDigBio. Now, the reason they're not there is because presumably Fort Hays State Museum or State University is not sending their data to iDigBio, but I'll show you another one in a sec that works. But here's sort of the basic page of information about this taxon. This is literally all entered by me just now. You can show more details and look at its classification. You can see all the collections it's from. Oh, there's one. There's my collection. Get to that. It's really all interlinked, which is really clever. Yeah, so let me show you a taxon. So you do this over here, search for a taxon. I'm going to do a favorite of mine. which I know has images. So here's the genus Dorodon, lots of stuff, display images. So it's now going to IDIG-Bio and saying, please send me images. And here they are. And if you're like, well, these are cool, that's a great picture, but what is it? You can click here and it'll take you to the IDIG-Bio record for that specimen. Again, so it's all very interlinked. And we just were like, we don't want to handle images. IDIG-Bio is doing images. Let's work with them. But look here, these are images of collections records. So those are like images of log books, which is kind of cool. Are those CCSABY? I don't know. That's IDIG-Bio's deal. So you have to read IDIG-Bio's usage on the images. All of PBDB is CCBY, but whatever IDIG-Bio says is what they are, because we're just serving them up for you. So again, check the IDIG-Bio records to figure out what the usage rights are for the images. I believe they have a similar general use CC license, but I offhand just don't know what it is. Yep, good question. Okay, so let's go back to the main menu. Again, you can search for anything over here. Taxa, stratigraphy, collections, references. Does the latest opinion mean the latest published by date or most recently? So added to PBDB means absolutely nothing. It's publication date. Because I can add stuff from the 1800s now, and it's going to go right down the list because they're super old. Yep. So here's something I haven't shown you. You can print a taxonomic hierarchy. Let's do Mysticete whales. So it sort of collapsed when you first pull it up, and you can open it up and see all the relationships here. And all these are clickable links. You're like, what's Edeacetus wheltoni? Takes you to that page. Are there any pictures? Nope. Let's see. Let's see. I think there's a picture of this one. Let's find out. Nope. Oh, well. But again, all interlinked. And you can see how this is a great way to sort of look for weirdness in the taxonomy. Remember, it's dynamically built. Like literally every time you say, show me the taxonomy, it builds this tree. And so like, here's a bit of weirdness. The genus Wollungacetus is still in the Idiacididae because somebody said that Wollungacetus albingensis, that species is a nomen dubium, but failed to say that about the genus. I know that's true. So it's odd, but it shows you where there's some taxonomy work to be done, which is kind of nice. Yeah, so as Evan is saying here, you can get a synonymy list, basically. So let's look at the opinions for, this is kind of a rich record. So if you look, this is the fossil whale I did my dissertation on, so I know a lot about it. It was originally named as Proseuglodon atrox, was synonymized a couple times, and then finally put in the genus Dorodon by me. Some people have synonymized other things with this. Also, you can find that out other ways, but again, that's why we put them all in. And you can see it's like taxonomy bounces around, stabilizes. That's often true. Other taxa just bounce around for the rest of their entire lives. Okay, other questions? These are good questions. If you click on one of those opinions, does it show the strength of the opinion? Well, it takes you to edit it. So yes. Yep. Clicking on the opinion takes you to the opinion record that you can edit. Other questions? Okay, so let me just sort of update you. So I had you all go to the training site. I said to do this, and some of you did, and some of you probably didn't. And I said, do this and get a guest account. If you did that, you have a guest account and can't enter data here because the widget that allows me to upgrade your accounts is not functioning. And I just talked with our programmer, and he didn't want to mess with it while I was doing my webinar, but like at 3 o'clock Eastern, I'm going to talk to him again, and we're going to try to fix it. Once that happens, as long as you got your guest account on the training site with the same email that you emailed me with, I will make you enterers under me. And what that means is you can do all the stuff I just did, and you should practice here, and then I can look at it. I can look at it and I can override your data entry. So if you're having trouble, you can email me, be like, oh, Mark, I'm doing this. I don't know what I'm doing here. And then I can hop in and see what you've done and give you some advice. I apologize, this isn't working. I noticed it wasn't working this morning, and we'll get it fixed, and I'll upgrade your accounts, and I will email you when that happens. So for now, hold tight. I asked you to like grab a paper so you could try this yourself. As soon as I email you that that is fixed, you'll be able to do that. And once you feel comfortable and you're like, I think I got this, you can then go to the main Paleobiology database website. And notice when you're on training, this bar is in red, so you know you're on the training site. When you're on the main site, it's in black, so you know the difference. You don't want to put a bunch of data on the training site because it won't translate over to the main site. When you're ready, you think to enter data in the main database, you can go here and do the same procedure to join by pushing this button. So in general, our policy is that if you're a working paleontologist, you're a professor, curator, collections manager, whatever, you can become an authorizer, which is a person that can just go in and enter data. If you're a grad student, what we generally ask you to do is to work under somebody who is an authorizer, and your status would be called enterer. And that way, that other person, if it's your advisor, great. If it's another person who's knowledgeable about your taxa, great. If you don't know of anyone who can do this for you, we can try to help you find somebody. So we want everyone to be entering data. And so we want you to practice first in the training site. And when you feel comfortable, come over here and either ask to be an authorizer or become an enterer for someone who is an authorizer. And grad students, if your advisor is like, not into the idea of being an authorizer, you could train them. Or if they're just like, I don't want to deal with that, just talk to me or talk to the secretary of the database, Matthew Clapham, and we'll try to find someone to help you. And if it's really a problem, we sometimes allow grad students to be authorizers on their own with some help. We always pair people up with buddies to help them manage this whole process, because when you first start out, it takes a while to get to the level of ease and speed and knowing what to put where that I demonstrated here today. So we want everyone to feel comfortable first. So again, once you get the email from me, you can practice on training, and then when you feel comfortable, move over to the main site. Okay, that's really all I have. Quite a few entries in PBDB that are simply occurrences which don't come from taxonomic papers, just papers which include stratigraphic fauna lists. Is the process for entry these different? James, the answer is no. If there's no taxonomic info, then you just skip over that and you go straight from entering a reference to entering a collection. And you're right, there's a lot of papers that are just like, I found this stuff here. That's fine, just skip the taxonomy. I picked a paper that had taxonomy and occurrences because I wanted to show all of it to you. But you're right, there's tons and tons of papers that have just occurrences, and those are gold. I mean, those are wonderful. So yes, by all means, you can just skip taxonomy and go right there. Sam asks, is it possible to add occurrences to a paper previously added to the PBDB? Yes, we strongly encourage everyone, when you enter a paper, to enter everything. Like if someone did not enter all the info. Yeah, well, yes. And yes, we want everything entered from a paper. So if you notice that someone has not entered all the occurrences, or maybe entered the occurrences and not the taxonomy, or the taxonomy, not the occurrences, yes, please, for God's sake, enter that data. And the PBDB keeps track of all that. So it keeps track of 3 pieces of user information. The person who first entered it, if and then it has authorizer, enterer, and last editor. So if I'm an authorizer, it goes Uhen, and if someone else altered it, then whoever altered it. Rory asks, so is it possible to add taxonomic info from a paper that doesn't include new occurrences? Yeah, so absolutely. Yep. We want all of that. So if it's just taxonomy, you can enter that. It's, anything is possible. So if you got just one class of data and it's important, please add it. Absolutely. It's funny how I like taxonomy. I think its intricacies are fascinating, but I think doing this kind of data entry makes you much better at doing all of this, because you'll find that people leave out really pertinent information all the time, which is very strange to me. But I think it's not, people just sort of forget that we're not including the best time information. It's not the best taxonomic information. Octavio asks, is fossilworks.org articulated with this? Fossilworks.org is run by John Elroy, and it gets a daily data dump from the PBDB. So sometime, I think it's like 2 in the morning Central Time, a big blob of data goes to Fossilworks and is done, hopefully gets displayed accurately there, but it is not run by us. So we give the data to Fossilworks, but we don't have any control over what happens to it after that. Yep, good question. And there are some cool tools at Fossilworks to map data, to do strat columns of data. It's fun. There's lots of good stuff. And our site links to Fossilworks under the resources tab. Let me show you. So resources has lots of cool stuff. It's under here somewhere, web apps, I think. But in FossilWorks, there's no data entering. That is correct, right? All data gets entered here and it gets fed other places. Yep, here's FossilWorks. So all of these widgets use our data. And if you have a widget that you make, you can upload it using our resource uploader here. So if you make a lesson plan, an R script, a little website that does stuff, by all means, share it with others. And this is a way to do that. Other questions? These are good questions. Can you add fossil plant data here? Oh, I'm so glad you asked that question. Yes, you can. Yep, just like you do animal data, we take everything. There is a grant proposal that just went into NSF, to EarthCube, to flesh out the plant sort of tools. And what the hope is that we'll be able to have a sort of separate parallel database of images of plant morphotypes, because I know, especially in the Cenozoic, most people are using morphotypes instead of taxonomic names, and we're going to add that system to this if that grant gets funded. But yep, everything you can do that I showed you, you can do with plants. And there's even plant parts. You can identify what bits and pieces you have. So yep. I have a lot of that plant stuff turned off. There's some settings you can set, and since I usually do animals, I have all that plant stuff turned off because I generally don't need it. We also have a grant being funded right now that's going to incorporate ocean drilling project data. So we're adding core-based data, and it's going to really flood the system with microfossils from these cores, which would be really, really cool. We'll be able to do more stuff with, linking it to isotopic data and being able to do more with climate and environment and things. So yeah, good things are on the horizon. Other questions? I know I don't wait long enough after I ask that, but it's a horrible habit. Ask a question and then move on. Okay. Yep, plants. I love plants. I'm encouraging my paleobotany peeps to enter data because it's really not real good right now. It's not very rich in plant data. So please, yep, plants are cool. I agree. we need more plant data. So if you are plant people, bless you. We want you entering data. So again, just to remind you, we'll get this little thing fixed on the training site, and I'll message you all. And then your guest accounts will have automatically transformed into enterer accounts, and you can start going at it. And on training, don't worry. Whatever you enter, I don't care how bogus it is, we don't care. Like we can push a button and make it all go away. Once you get to the main site, you better do it right, because I'll watch you. And if you're having trouble, by all means, email me and I'll help you out, or I'll hook you up with somebody else who can help you out. So I really hope this was helpful. I know I went over a lot of stuff, and yes, thank you all for being here. This is it's a big task to enter data, and the database doesn't work without you guys entering data. So yeah, we're going to do more webinars. I think the next one's going to be on education. Evan is planning to do one in Greek, and we're hoping to organize one in Spanish. So if you have people who have other languages, those are the two we have easy access to with our board. And so keep your eye out for those. And if you're particularly interested in Spanish or Greek, just let Evan and I know, and we'll get you on the list for those. Thank you all very much. Stay safe and healthy. I'm glad you could participate. So take care, everyone.